All right, guys, welcome back to another MVP Friday. Today we have a very, very, very special guest, a friend of mine and a guy that we've connected and sort over different times throughout our path and mostly inside of the fitness industry. And then, watching him sort of do what he's done, especially over the last few years, has been absolutely fucking incredible, man. So welcome, brother Lachie. How are you, man?
Dill, thanks for having me on, mate. I'm pumped to be here.
Yes.
When you posted that photo this morning, I remember the swimming days.
Yeah, that's when I try to be a triathlete.
You were lean, bro.
Yeah, I was lean, getting pretty chunky now. So, Lachie, man, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about the man that can, and sort of what you're sort of doing?
So I guess I'm a husband. I consider myself an athlete as well, a business owner, and just someone who's loving life and building a lifestyle business. So for me, I founded the Man That Can project in 2017, and it came off the back of social media. I think like a lot of people now use social media.
Yeah.
For me, I was very excited about things that I was learning in my own journey. So off the back of, I was playing professional sport in Europe, in France. And when I moved back, I had that rock bottom moment, and you got two options there: you either bounce out or stay down there. And I was fortunate; someone extended a hand and helped me bounce out. And I just got so excited by what I was learning. I got given a book called The Four Agreements, and that book changed my life for two reasons. One, I actually completed a book that wasn't a skateboarding or motocross magazine or a picture magazine. And secondly, it was really insightful what I learned from that book. It actually opened my eyes to recognize and realize that I could change what I thought and how I thought about myself and what I thought was possible. So every book, as we all know, once you read a book, you're left with more questions and you go seek answers for those questions. So I just became hungry, and then I started sharing that on social media, predominantly Instagram. And it taught me a lot. It taught me to write better. I'd always write posts and send it to my wife, who was actually literate. I wasn't very literate. And she would send back a draft and go, here's how you should rewrite it. So I taught myself to write, and then eventually got better with video. And in the process, I was still figuring out what was next after sport. I didn't really consider myself smart. So, university wasn't on the table. I didn't want to be a chippy. I had done my apprenticeship, but I thought chippies, at that time, I just wanted to earn more money and I wanted to be successful. So I was still figuring out what it was. And after a while of consistently posting stuff on social media, more and more people, men and women, were saying, hey, how would you, go about overcoming this? Or I really love that you shared that. And it got me thinking eventually, like, oh, should I get into this coaching thing? Because I don't really know what else to do. And that's what we did. And I was in Europe one day on holiday. And I still remember when I launched our first men's circle, because the mental health space was something I'd gone through my own struggles. I've had mates take their life by suicide. So I thought, if I've got, tools and experience to help people with that, that's what I want to do. And one thing I always wanted, and, Dill, you're a pivotal part in this as well, you'd always helped me throughout the years, was to have access to men from all walks of life, those who are successful parents, those who are successful with their health, with their finances, and be able to sit down with them and to have them honestly and openly tell me what it's like to reach the pinnacle of that field. Because I feel, we always get this is how I got here sort of story, but we don't get this is me going through the shit right now story. And that's where the men's group started. And it was always from that, okay, well, one, how can I monetize this? Because I wanted to make a career out of it. But secondly, what's going to help these men even more? What's the next problem they have that I can create a solution for? And over the years, that's gone from men's circles to workshops to online community. Now we've got a really big podcast as well. And it's just constantly evolved, but it's always stayed aligned with making sure, one, I don't sacrifice my physical health for it.
Yep.
Two, I stay connected to obviously my friends and family, the people that I'm working with, and it provides freedom, and that's financial and time. So it always sort of is built around that.
That's incredible, bro. There's so much there to unpack, and a couple of things that I guess just sort of going back to what you said at the start. And when you introduced yourself, the first thing you said was, a husband. And I thought that was really cool because most people are like, oh, I'm Lachie from the Man That Can. They'll introduce what they do, not who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that distinction is very, very good, man. And like, I guess in terms of your values, because I know like the Man That Can and a lot of what you do, it's very, very value driven. When you sort of said about, being a husband, why was that sort of one of the top things you sort of introduced yourself as?
Because I feel very fortunate that I got to do what I always wanted to do from a young age. So playing professional sport, it taught me that what you do isn't your identity. And I feel if I were to introduce myself as the man that can again, then I'm just repeating that same cycle that when that ended for me, I was, at a rock bottom point. So for me now, it's like one of the most important things in my life is my relationship with my wife. And it's something that I love. So I pride myself on being a good husband. And obviously the other things that I mentioned, they're really values based and they're things that every decision or every important, I guess, big decision, I ask myself if it's going to impact those areas where for me, and I've openly spoken about this on my own podcast, is I'm not attached to the Man That Can project. If I'm not doing the Man That Can project for 5 years, I don't care. Like I love it and it's fulfilling right now. But if, when I become a dad one day or as my life changes, then I'll do whatever I need to do to, feel the most fulfilled. But as long as I'm still healthy, have a great relationship and getting to live my life, and that's what's most important. Obviously, the beautiful thing about running your own company is you can sort of mold it to the way that your life's going as well. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's incredible, bro. And like you and your wife, like Amy, have launched a bit of a couples podcast.
Yeah.
I thought it was good value, man. It's really like some good behind the scenes there. And like obviously both of you are very, successful in your own sort of rights. And I guess, man, like there'd be a ton of challenges juggling that and then also keeping the love alive. And I know just having personal chats with you in the past, like it's been different things you go through. Like, how do you actually manage that, bro? How do you keep the flame alive while, trying to take on the world as well?
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
I think we're so involved in each other's lives and businesses. So like there was a point in probably the first 7 years of our relationship where she was killing it and I wasn't. I never wanted to piggyback off her success. So I really separated myself from her in regards to leverage, leveraging her network or success, because I wanted to prove to myself I could do it. And I wanted to say that I built something by myself, which in hindsight, yeah, it's cool, but I also probably slowed my own success. Whereas now, we've got a big company, we do so much together. We've got, we're building a life together. So her career, I can, be there to support her. And I've got skills that, aren't her strong suit. So I can add value to that. And that excites me and that excites both of us. But then at the end of the day, the success that we're both having allows us, we're very fortunate to, I think we outsource a lot of things that maybe a lot of relationships or couples hate doing, like cooking, cleaning, all that sort of stuff. That can, I guess we utilize that time to do fun things for each other and keep the work separate from that. So look, we're not perfect with that. We use our phones for work, so they constantly buzz, but we definitely every week prioritize 1 to 2 nights a week, which is like a date night or a hangout night with no technology as well. So I think because we are so engaged and involved in what we're both doing, both personally and professionally, it's actually exciting because we get to ride the winds of each other as well.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. And like what you sort of said there about, outsourcing the things that, sort of in a way, the other things that cause an argument, like I'll be the first to admit, like if Jess is listening to this, she'll be shaking her head like, why are you not doing the dishes, all of this sort of stuff? And I'm just like, Lachie, you're a bloody genius. Like, how do you go about, man? Because I know a lot of will be a few high performers here that are sort of, pushing a few limits. Like, how do you go about having that conversation of like, hey, let's maybe outsource some of the stuff we don't enjoy doing and buying back time essentially to do stuff that fills you up?
For me, and I think this is different for everyone, but for Amy and I think we're very fortunate because she travels so much that she understands the value of time. And when she gets home from touring or whatever she's been up to, the last thing she wants to do is those things, right? You know, everyone has things that they enjoy doing and don't enjoy doing. And in the beginning, we had to suck it up and just do them because we couldn't afford to outsource it. But the first thing that went, because look, we've had heaps of moments where we've butted heads immensely. And I think because we're both very, you know, she's self-aware just by nature. I've learned a lot about that, whereas I've had to really work at becoming, I guess, self-aware and situationally aware within the relationship, because we understand and we talk about the challenges that we're having or what is frustrating us in the relationship. We've been able to go, okay, well, if it's frustrating us that we don't have time to hang out, even though we consider cooking dinner time, let's buy food, let's buy dinner, get someone to prep it, and then we can hang out while we're eating that and then just throw the stuff in the bin. We've just made back an hour. And that's invaluable because it's not necessarily always about having so much time together. And we're very fortunate, you know, Amy's away for 5 days now, and I get the ability to, or the opportunity to miss her, right? So I don't take it for granted, and it's the same way. No, it's the same for her. So we understand that the time that we have together needs to be very intentional, and the stuff that we can outsource, we piss it off really quickly, and we're both on board with that because everyone in life's busy. So you know, declutter. I hope that answered the question.
No, absolutely, man. And like, it's a great insight and context. And like, it's definitely a lot of, you know, you get to different stages, and you said there was different parts there where, you know, you just sucked it up at the start, and you know, you are busy and we're all busy, but it's like, hey, let's get rid of it as you can. And I thought that was pretty cool, bro. Man, probably circling back now to, I guess, going through, you said that you hit that rock bottom part. You want to sort of maybe give us an insight to that? And then you did mention there someone extended a hand to sort of give you a bit of a hand up. Maybe just sort of take us through like that rock bottom and then the few steps that took you out of there.
Yeah. So I moved overseas to escape a breakup. So even though I was, you know, lucky to play professional footy, I didn't really care about footy. It was just like the vehicle to achieve what I thought success was and everything that came with that. And when I went through that breakup, I, you know, couldn't handle that. I didn't know how to deal with it emotionally. So I thought that if I went overseas, one, I could run away from the pain. Yep. Secondly, people would see how successful I was and she'd want me back. And what I recognized, or what I experienced, after the first 3 months of living there, the same insecurities popped up, the same poor behaviors and thought patterns popped up, and I ended up getting sacked. So moved back home to Australia, you know, after 18 months, and was no better off. And that way I had also blown the last sort of lifeline I had in regards to achieving what I deemed to be success back then. And what I feel like most young men do is we avoid stuff and we try to numb ourselves. So I was using a lot of recreational drugs, alcohol, getting in fights. And one night that went a little bit too far, and I found myself in a situation where I was at the bottom of a staircase, arrested, and everyone's looking at me. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like disgusting. Like, I wasn't proud of that moment. And look, I went to a private school. I had a great education, great family, but I was behaving that way because I was hurting and I just didn't know what to do. But I made a decision then that I wanted to change, and I didn't want to find myself in a situation like that again. And it literally felt like in the next couple of months, everything sort of started to align. A guy that I played footy with, he used to play footy for England. This was obviously once I moved back home. So we were just playing knockabout footy.
Yep.
You know, going through his sort of personal development journey, and he recommended this book and got me into network marketing, actually. And because of the success he'd had from a rugby standpoint, I just trusted him instantly. I was like, this guy play at the highest level. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me, sort of thing. And yeah, from that moment, it sort of just got me hungry to get going.
That's cool, bro. And like with your network marketing journey, bro, like it was actually, I've done network marketing, you know, a couple of times throughout my life. I think it was one of my first sort of adventures into entrepreneurship. I was selling Herbalife at the time, knocking on doors. Basically, at the time, it looked like harassing everyone because I had no actual skill to it.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, man, it was one of the most valuable things I've ever done in terms of learning how to manage myself around rejection. And so, man, like, and I know for a fact, and Brad's on here as well, and he'll sort of back this up, like sales and persuasion is one of the most critical skills to be successful if you want to be an entrepreneur. And network marketing, one of the best things about it is it teaches you how to get out in front of people, how to go and find people, and how to create some great connections. So maybe, man, like a couple of lessons from that realm that you think has helped you.
I agree with what you said there. Definitely, I think the few shortcuts that it gives you is it gives you a product or a service that you don't have to create. Okay, you just need to learn to believe in it, or hopefully you should believe in it. Okay, whereas when you're in the entrepreneurial space, you got to build your own product or service, which is another stress on top of that because you're like, fuck, does it work or not? Whereas you with Herbalife, for example, or I was with Isogenics, you're getting into a company, for example, that has incredible systems and processes and marketing materials, testimonials and results. So the belief's there, you just got to get out and talk. You then get to be put into a community of like-minded people who are hungry for success. Okay. And being around that energy is infectious. Like for me, I put a video out on it this morning, like the people that we spend our time around is like building a team. Okay. And you think back to primary school feels like ages ago for me, but when you're picking like primary school sports teams just at lunchtime, you'd have 2 leaders and then there'd be like 20 people and it's just tit for tat. They're trying to get the best players. And then there's generally the last 2 and then the last person. You don't want to be the last person and you don't want to be picking the last person unless they're a winner as well. But most people are filling up their team with numbers, not winners, just because they don't want to feel lonely and isolated. And I realized that, I built an organization of over 4,000 people in network marketing. So I was really good at the sales and all of that component, but I wasn't necessarily choosing the right people. I was just taking anyone I could get. And that made me start to recognize, okay, it's not just about having a lot of people around you. It's about having the best people around you, those ones that empower you, help you fast track your success or compound your success. And that was a beautiful thing. But then thirdly, so sorry to touch on it, was obviously having the goal and the vehicle and a company that provides you framework, systems and processes. Second was the environment. So being able to walk in or be surrounded by like-minded people. So if you're having a bad day, hopefully the energy of them makes you elevate, or vice versa. Some people might be having a bad day, you can help them elevate. But the third one was like the power of testimony and having something that actually works. You can't sell something that, or you can't have a sustained sales career in something that doesn't work. For me, even with our product and service, it's always about the results. I'm not going to do something for a short period of time just to make some money. For me, I test everything that I do on myself, or I have a few mates that I'll put through it first to get some feedback, tweak it to make sure that it delivers, because I want to have something that genuinely creates change, not just flipping something for some cash.
Yeah. I reckon, man, I remember where there was a couple of times when I was still working at Function Well, and I think there was a couple of times there where you'd sort of walked away from the isogenics and you were like, look, I'm going to go all in with this coaching stuff. And you were sort of half in, half out for quite a while, because obviously you're doing bloody well. And I remember one time specifically, you're like, I should have just kept that up, because you were making good bank. And it was like, but there was something in you, man, that made that decision to like, no, I've got to step away from that because I'm after something bigger. How did you work through that, bro?
Yeah, in hindsight, mate, I still laugh about that because I could have kept, like, it would have dropped over time, but I was still earning good money. But I think for me, it was just going all in on the one thing. We were speaking about this offline a moment ago, but the importance of going all in on something. If you have, 10 browsers open on your Google Chrome, you can get confused and you can lose focus, as opposed to if you just had one. And I knew that I needed to go all in because, some days I'd be thinking about selling Isogenics, for example, because I'm like, I need to build this, build that, as opposed to then the other day, I'm like, oh, what about the solution for this? And it was confusing people. And look, I can give you a real life example of this for me right now, Dylan. So currently in my business, when I work with people one-on-one, I have 5 clients at any time one-on-one, which, is a significant investment for those people, as opposed to I still do flip and PT, right?
Yeah.
Because I love PT, like I love training. I froth on it. But the difference in the hourly rates, if you break them down to hourly rates, is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So for me at the moment, I'm going through this point where I'm just like, dude, as much as you like PT, you got to let it go. Like it's counterproductive to the goals that I have. And it's also, once again, people are like, well, is Lachie PTing or is he doing this? And I've been dealing with that for about 18 months. And I keep saying to my coach at the moment, so I love it. I'm worried if I stop doing it, I'll lose a certain level of fulfillment. It's like, well, what do you want more? And that's like the real life thing that I'm going through right this very moment. And I have to sort of let go of something else in order to move forward in another area.
Yeah. It's me and Jimmy were actually having the same conversation, because I did a couple PTs this morning, and I'm just look, it almost cost me money to do it. Like
literally.
I'm essentially, I'm not working for free, but essentially it cost me money because it's a couple of hours, and like I do just really love hanging out with these people. It's almost more like they're paying me to hang out.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, like, that's what me and Jimmy were talking about. There's a point where you're gonna have to decide and step away. How do you, man, you said 18 months, like what has that back and forward sort of, what is that conversation?
Because I'm stubborn, man. Like I think I'm not driven by money. I love money, don't get me wrong, but myself and Amy, we're fine financially. So it's not the reason behind a lot of the decisions that I make. And everyone that I work with, the rule of thumb is if I would work with you, I'd have to have a beer with you. Like I'd share a beer with you, meaning I don't work with people I wouldn't get along with. And everyone that I have, even in the gym, are just stellar people. Like you said, it's like you're getting paid to hang out with them. And I still get paid a lot more there than I would have when I was a chippy or even playing footy. Right. So for me, it's not a loss in time. And I can quite often forget about the fact that, based off, if you're looking at an hourly rate over doing this type of work as opposed to this type, I'm losing hundreds of dollars. I don't think about it like that. I'm like, I'm quite happy right now, like hanging out with this person, training this person, watching this person get this result. So, the stubbornness comes from my coach has been telling me to do this for about 18 months. And I keep going, but dude, I love it.
What do you feel like you're going to lose if you stop this PT?
Mate, if I'm being honest, I'm worried about being lazy. I feel that if I don't have a reason to get up at 4 a.m., I won't. And I don't want to get up at 4. Look, this is fresh in my mind because I've just had this conversation on Monday. I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. I would love to sleep till 6, but I've grown up in a farming family. So dad's always up at the crack of dawn. I would get up at the crack of dawn with him. And that's how I've always done things. I have this belief that if you're sleeping until 7 or 8, you've missed the best parts of the day. You're on the back foot. And that's my own thing to work through. But I also feel I love living like that. As much as, if I gave myself the opportunity to sleep in, I still probably wouldn't do it. So that for me is I just am scared of being lazy, and I don't want to become lazy because I don't want to feel like I'm, once again, I'm driven by success, and I don't want to feel like I'm not being successful.
When you look at laziness, and this is we've both come from hardworking families. We haven't necessarily come from highly leveraged families, and so one of the conversations. This is a conversation that I have nowhere near enough, I guess, bandwidth or actual insight into. But people who have gone through the complete grinds and gone and been very, very successful. They've worked very, very hard. They get to another end and they're like, if only I had to learn to leverage earlier. And so potentially, do you feel like, potentially it's not necessarily laziness, it's just you're holding on to an identity that is a self-worth type identity rather than, hey, look, I don't want to be seen as lazy. I don't want to have that. What do you think it is?
Yeah, it very well could be that identity that I don't want to be seen as lazy.
Mm.
And that's the crazy thing, right? I think you've nailed it. Because yeah, hardworking is, to me, you always need to be doing something.
Mm.
And I think if I'm in a position where I don't need to always be doing something, but I still do always do something because I don't want to be lazy or I don't want the perception of being lazy.
What do you
That's
feel like?
mad. You just gave me that.
What do you
Hey,
feel like the actual, what do you feel like you're actually getting from your work
from the PT,
or from any of your work? What do you feel like you're getting from it? Not necessarily the income, but what are you actually getting from it?
I feel so fulfilled when I see the progress that I work with men only. So to see the progress or to hear of them improving their relationship with their partners or their wives or their children, or the relationship with themselves, like for me, that's so satisfying because there's so many men out there who hate who they are and they hate their quality of life. So by getting that is, I love that feeling. But also the best thing is that people are giving me the insight to improve my own life. It's like going back to what I said in the very beginning, why we started men's circles, is I wanted to have access to people from all walks of life who were going to tell me the shit that they're going through on the way to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I get that every day with the clients that I work through. So I'm going, here's just gone through a divorce because of this and this and this. I've got to make sure that I don't do that. This person's mate's just, one of my clients' best mate just got diagnosed with cancer on Monday, and they obviously spoke about it via phone, but he sent through all these text messages after, and my client told me to read them. And I'm sure everyone on this call has had dealings with mortality or people in life pass away, or read books, or seen Instagram posts about these people on death's door saying this is what we do differently. And this guy said very similar things, right? I want to read the top 50 best books in the world. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to travel more, all that stuff. We know it. Not one thing was about work. The thing he said about work was he was going to quit. So the fact that we have so many reminders about all of these things that should be important to us, yet we don't do anything about it, is the one thing that continues to blow my mind. And I put myself in that boat as well. I'm not saying I've figured that out, but that's what I've been thinking about this week, because I got that insight from a client, and, I didn't have to pay for that. I don't have to have another friend send me a text message like that to start thinking about that this week. I got that from someone who is, open and willing to share that with me.
Yeah.
And now I get to share with you guys.
That's absolutely incredible, bro. And one of the coolest things, and like talking about like a different marketing strategy and niches, and that quite often, like I'll sort of talk about, just being you are the avatar, you are the niche. And essentially, man, you've gone and created a business around what you wish you had. And like, how did you sort of, and I guess in terms of like men, man, like men are notoriously hard to, get them to make change.
Yeah.
How are you going about, one, I guess, maybe from, getting people to maybe put their hand up to make change, but then also getting them to actually commit to change?
Look, I think when you look at like at any given moment, there's people who are completely unaware that they need to make a change. And that was me in 2013. I've always had, all of us have the amount of potential we're pursuing, but I just wasn't aware of it. So there's a lot of people, and I'd say majority of people fall in that category where they're just not aware, right? So the reason why I share so much of the things that I've went through and like what I shared with you before, stuff that I'm currently going through, is because people can relate to that. And they might go, whoa, I can change that. Cool. The next point is like people who are problem aware, they're just not aware that there's a solution. Okay, so once again, why we're on here doing a podcast and, I put out a lot of content is to help people know. And, these whole points of transformation is to show people that there are other people out there who've gone through what they've gone through. And then finally, it's like making them recognize that I potentially have a solution for that, or you have a solution for that.
Yeah.
And it's helping give them or educate them around the questions that they may have in order for them to make a decision to create change, which is what holds a lot of people back. And for men in particular, I guess you touched on it a moment ago with me. It's like we're attached to an identity, and especially in Australian culture, it's different around the world. Australian culture is tall poppy syndrome. You got the banner with your mates. As soon as you go to change, right? So for me, Dylan, and you already know this about me, but when I left Toowoomba in 2013 or 14, and I started, posting all this stuff on social media, I had Facebook pages made about me, paying me out and all this sort of crap for 2 to 3 years. And because I was changing the way other people and how I was showing up, which was probably bringing up some insecurities and whatnot for other people as much as it was for me. And most people might get to that point, which is probably what we've all seen, right? People start change, fall off the wagon and go back to doing what they're doing because it's uncomfortable, it's isolating, and it's lonely for a time being. Yeah. And that's where I think most people get stuck. And that's why I think community is one of the most important things that you can create in any product or service that you're delivering. Because look, when we were running workshops, one of the most upsetting things for me was these blokes would come to our workshops, have awesome breakthroughs, and then 3 months later, they're back hanging out with the same people, going back to doing the same things, hating their life again, because they didn't have access to that environment, like in the long term. And that's why for me, I was like, okay, well, to create sustainable change, we need to give these blokes communities. And doing what you're doing, Dill, right now, by even having this audio, people in the bush, I work with a lot of people in the bush, once again, because it's part of my lifestyle, is like, those guys, for example, in Roma or Chinchilla, who don't have access to meeting up with people in Brisbane or Sydney or Melbourne, we've got tons of podcasts. You can just plug them in and I'm in your ears for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Right. That can be just as impactful. That's what I did for years, right? Until I found my now new group of mates. And so I think to answer your question, I guess in a number of dot points, men aren't aware, so they're not aware. They lack the ability to change, or they lack the know-how and they lack the support. Right. A few probably simple things that all people in general need to improve, and it's out there. And I think the beautiful thing about social media is the fact that we're all fucking unique in our own way. And for a long time, we've had to, for me, I felt I had to be the football dude. I built that character of myself to fit in, so I wasn't bullied. And I never felt, I felt confused the whole time because I wasn't being authentic to myself. And now that I can watch other people on social media just being their authentic self, I'm like, fuck, you're weird. And then the other person, I'm like, you're just as weird as me. Cool, I'll go message you. Yeah. I think that's so cool. It's just having the balls to reach out to people.
How did you get past it, man? Like, because I had a similar thing. Was like when I was sort of starting my sheer fitness, all I thought was like, people are going to think I'm a dick, people are going to think I'm a wanker, all of this stuff, because it's all poppy syndrome, man. And it's almost like it's one of the things I'm very, very passionate about trying to take on. And like, how did you sort of overcome that, bro? Because it's a lot of noise, and you said you had that for 2 years. Well, like, it's probably still going, you just don't hear it.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you sort of overcome that, man, and just keep, I guess, plugging forward?
I just want to also recognize you, man. When I saw you were doing sheer fitness and all that sort of stuff, like I was inspired by it, because you and I, look, we were at the same gym for a while.
Yeah.
Some incredibly talented coaches there that won't break the mold and, do what their, I guess, specialty is because they're worried about the noise. Yeah. So when you were doing that, I was like, fuck yeah, Dill. And like, obviously you've just done what you've done now, which is wild, and I love it.
Yeah.
But for me to block out the noise, for me, it's my wife, man. Like, I have been so inspired by her and what she's done because she was bullied. She has been successful in a field that so many people aren't, but she never gave a shit. Like obviously she did, but she was just so set on what she wanted.
Yeah.
Right. The drive and ambition to be successful in a place where one, women generally aren't successful in this field, and
Yeah.
two, in the creative space, not many people can make a full-time living out of it. So I'm sitting there going, well, if she's doing it, I need to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And so when I was getting picked on or whatever, I just remembered what I wanted to create for myself. Even when I had, I had to take second jobs and do a whole heap of other stuff to be successful. It was like, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes, and I'm prepared to have the criticism because Amy did it. If Amy can do it, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to, once again, being competitive. Amy and I are always competitive with each other, but it's like, if she can do it, I'm going to fucking do it as well. Because that's the kind of, people may view it in the wrong way, but it's for me, I want to be someone that she can depend on. I want to be someone that through tough times has the grit to rip in and do stuff, because life's not smooth sailing, and building a business isn't smooth sailing. And I did that not only because I was inspired by her, but I did it because I wanted to inspire myself.
That's fucking magic, man. Like slightly shifted gear, bros. Like when you were coming up, so right now, man, like you said, your business, you won't sacrifice your health, you won't sacrifice essentially time with friends and family. Was it always like that? And how did you get to that point?
Nah,
Yeah.
no way, mate. Yeah. Well, so I guess going back to, even when I was playing sport, I trained all day, every day. Like when I was a athlete, obviously. And then when I was doing laboring, I was once again had that hardworking mentality. And when I got into network marketing, mate, this literally, let me turn this camera. So in this cupboard here, can you see that cupboard there? In there is like a little bloody hobbit looking thing like Dobby from Harry Potter. And that's where I started my business in there. I'll show you at the end. But I would be in there from literally 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. If you ask Amy our first 3 years of the relationship, Matt, I was in there cold calling. I've still got notebooks of names and numbers of people I was, adding on Facebook, getting their number, just cold calling. And I was obsessed. Like I stopped watching sport. I love sport. I stopped hanging out with mates. I love my mates. I literally wouldn't eat dinner with the family. I don't know why Amy stayed with me, to be honest. Like it's mind blowing. But that 3 years was so impactful in the skills that I learned and the network that I created. So I recognized, so I had this moment where none of my mates would invite me to things anymore. When I did catch up with people and people were trying to just talk about, footy or whatever, I had no idea what was going on. Like all I could tell you about was self-help and business. So I recognized that I was fucking boring. And that's when I realized I was like, okay, I need to work out how I can be this efficient to make this many calls, learn these skills and grow my business, but also do the things that I love doing. Like it wasn't even surfing or anything. I was like, dude, start making time. And that's when I started realizing how to become more efficient and manage time. And that was a whole nother thing, I guess, going from a weirdo to learning how to talk to people in person again.
What do you reckon? What came first, man? Was it realizing that you had to be efficient, or was it that you built skills to become efficient?
Oh, no, definitely. I had to become efficient because I would just work 16-hour days if that's what was needed. I think recognizing that, and going back to what I said, I don't want to sacrifice. I did sacrifice my health for a few years, and I've got a before and after. And some people go, it's not that bad. For where I was and where I went to, it was bad.
Yeah.
So I've recognized, I've got these important areas of my life. And in every given day, I want to give time to them. I call it my daily deposits, right? I want to give daily deposits to my relationships, to my health, to my business, and to my lifestyle.
Yep.
Regardless of the time allocated, it's the intent. What do I want to add to that every single day? So recognizing that I have to be efficient. Like, there's probably a good tip for you guys. There's a new AI called Reclaim, which is like a little Have you? Yeah, you've heard of it. Yeah, so you know what it does. Like that saved me a weekly report on how much I've saved in wasted time. You know, we got those 15-minute or 30-minute chunks of time which you just waste. It's not enough time to get stuck into anything. So utilizing that, it's freed up a lot more time to now have the afternoon. Like Fridays is my podcast day anyway, where I record and get them edited, outsourced and whatnot. Then I'll go drink some scotch, listen to Luke Combs after this, which is going to be amazing. And I think by scheduling yourself better, you just are more intentional and you don't have 20 browsers open going, which thing do I want to do? It's like, I've got an hour allocated for this, so that's all I've got. If I've got 20 minutes allocated for this, that's all I've got.
Yeah, that's incredible, bro. And man, maybe like from a tactical standpoint, man, and I know that you've mastered essentially the Facebook group as your source of lead generation and working through that. How have you gone about creating this? Because it's essentially a free community, isn't it, that you invite people into, and then you sort of get them up into your next programs from there. What are you sort of takeaways from that?
What was that last bit? Sorry, you cut out.
What are your key points that make that successful?
Yeah, it's just making people feel valued and heard. So for us, you know, I got some VAs that go out and message people in there and start building relationships. Obviously, I understand it's not me, but they're gathering information, and we have those questions, information on when people join around pain points and what they're looking for help with. And I just create content for that. And because we've got a big spreadsheet of so everyone and what their needs are, we can go through and tag people in specific stuff, or I can say, hey, listen to this podcast episode. It might be helpful for you based off what you've said. So we're just looking to provide as much value as possible, because as I was saying before, right, with that whole people are at different points, a lot of people in that group are never going to buy from me. Ever. And that's okay. But if a podcast that I've done or a video that I've done does one thing for them that makes them a better husband or makes them enjoy their own company a bit more, then cool, that's awesome. But the people that will sort of go through the rung, they'll be the ones who come back and ask another question, or they'll be the ones who engage in a post. And then I'm going, okay, well, what is the piece of information missing that they need? And it then provides, you know, like I'm saying, I'm learning from people all the time. I get to sit down and I spend a lot of time thinking, Dill, where I think, okay, this person hasn't bought yet, but they're engaging in a lot of stuff. Where are they at in this journey, and what are the thoughts going through their head, and how can I deliver something that makes them go, fuck, Lachie knows exactly where I'm at. And it's just helping me decompartmentalize not only people's problems that are going through, but stuff that I'll probably experience in my own life. And then it's just, once again, pumping content, and those that are engaging with stuff, I just try to get on the phone as quickly as possible. Speed
of content. That's amazing, bro. And like sometimes, man, and maybe just around like a messaging perspective, like I often see people, especially who are trying to talk to men, it's almost the old school, like, stop being a wuss, get into it, get stuck in. How do you, because I fucking love your content, bro, and it's like you've managed to say what you need to say and tell, you know, blokes to get out of their own way, but there's enough finesse where it's not making them feel like shit. How have you sort of come about doing that?
I think it's empathy. I put that back to my mum. Like she cared, like even now she's got my grandmother at home living with her, and she's sacrificing a lot of her life because she cares so much for people and animals and all that sort of stuff. And I care a lot for people. Don't get me wrong, I do get frustrated, and there's times where I do give people a kick up the ass, but I believe you need to be invited to do that. So if I'm putting stuff on social media, I haven't been invited, you know, even though it's my own platform, right? I haven't been invited to be a prick. I've been invited to have a platform to hopefully connect with people through story and have them have those light bulb moments where they go, fuck, I need to do something. But I personally don't consume content from, you know, like Gary V or a lot of the military guys who are just blunt, like that doesn't resonate with me.
Mhm.
And so for some people it does, which is completely fine. But I tend to gravitate more to people, I guess, who tell you what you need to know, but don't be a dick about it. Is
Yep.
how I perceive it. Once again, I know they're not, but that's just how I perceive it.
Yep.
So I know there's people within my network that are the same, and that's, I don't know, that's just how I do things. I want people to be inspired to create change without feeling like they're worthless, because some people are literally so close to, you know,
It's for
taking their own life. They've had that their whole time. They don't need it from me.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, isn't it, man? And like there's some crazy numbers and crazy stats, and like I guess for me, like working with women so much for over the last sort of 6 years, I think I've sort of almost been cut off to what's going on in the men's space. And like now going back to having our other gym with, more men, and I work with a lot of guys here in Mumba, and there's some wild stats. I looked at the Queensland weightlifting enrollments the other day, 70% are female, and like that means like 20 to 30% of men are only doing something, that as an expression for a lot of men. And a lot of men aren't playing sports now. I believe there's a crazy stat in terms of something like men sort of around 20 to 25 on average are having sex 2 times a year.
Yeah,
Something
crazy.
crazy like that. And I'm like, bloody hell, I would have not had a good early 20s if that was the case. But like it's madness, and you can see there's so much hurt. There's like men are not allowed to express, what it is, I guess, to be a quote unquote man. And I think you sort of nailed it there, man, where it's like having that empathy. I almost think about it like there's almost a mixture between there's a middle ground between someone like a David Goggins, and then you got like a Brene Brown. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you got to meet somewhere in the middle. You can't necessarily be either side. I did go to David Goggins about a month ago, and I think I went a bit too far that way for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But
Oh, easy
yeah,
too.
yeah, but it's really interesting, bro. And like I think in terms of like that men's space, just allowing them, like you said, to make them aware and make them aware of a solution. And I think what you said, a couple of really cool things about that tall poppy syndrome, and like those levels of customer awareness, that customer journey, and hitting each point, and then making sure you just sort of dive into there, listen to them, give them value, and just not even look for anything in return. And that's that law of reciprocity. And and in terms of what you've done and what we have on social media, we have the opportunity to reach as many people as we need to. And a big thing you said, like, you're not driven by money, but you've obviously got plenty of money. So it's like, in terms of that, man, probably as a wee final one, how do you sort of, not necessarily be driven by money, but know that that money is useful, and that the collection of more of it is going to be even more useful?
Yeah, it's a good one. So obviously, from a personal standpoint, we have things that we want to achieve and people that we want to provide for. I want to, we've got investments. We want to pay for my parents to not have to work, which we do. Pay for my parent, to stay healthy. So we do all that sort of stuff and whatnot. So that's a motivator. But then obviously thinking of, when we have a family, we want to always have that ability for both of us to be able to stay home when we want, but also to invest in them, to give them something when they get to a point. So we're always thinking further down the track from a professional standpoint personal standpoint around things that we want to have, holidays that we want to take. So that from a monetary standpoint motivates us. From a professional standpoint, it's just when I say we, I subsidize a lot of stuff for clients. If there's people that I genuinely want to help that, may not be able to necessarily afford a program or a workshop, I'll subsidize that, because once again, I know that I love to see the impact that it could have on them and their family and stuff. So obviously I still have to pay people for running workshops and whatnot. So I take a hit, not even take a hit, but it's like, if I earn more in my business, it doesn't impact me as much from that perspective. And then also it's just a metric that we're actually doing something that impacts people. If your bank account isn't growing, you're not impacting. And I guess for the market that I have as well, like I wanted to make men strong and confident in who they are, which requires leadership skills. Me telling you what to do is not leadership, right? A man that needs to be told what to do is not in a position of leadership. I want to, and I guess probably to tie that back into that last question, if I can connect with a bloke in a way that he feels like he had the idea, or he knows what he needs to do, or the action that he needs to take, whether it is getting a coach or whether it is getting his ass off the couch, that's him taking leadership in his own way within his life, which then makes him more attractive to, whether it's employment opportunities, partners, whatever that may be.
Yep.
And the ripple effect of being able to do that is pretty powerful. So went on a bit of a tangent there, but from the monetary values, I think that's happening, and men are continuing to start telling, it's still happening. Like our podcast is going fucking nuts. Our memberships are growing. Everything's growing because blokes in our, and this is one thing I'm pretty proud of, is like men don't necessarily talk about mental health, and women generally super evangelistic about if they're doing a coaching program or something like that. You'll see it all over Facebook and Instagram and everywhere. You don't see blokes doing that.
No.
Rarely, especially the audience that, my demographic is more coming from the blue collar rugby background as well.
Yep.
And they're not doing that. They're not going, look, I just joined my 8-week breakthrough experience program. It's not happening. So when they do start telling their mates, and obviously not through social media, they'll call a mate and invite them into the program or whatever. That's pretty fucking powerful. And then knowing that we've got funds behind us to travel and do free workshops in Melbourne or Sydney and stuff, that for me is exciting. And a new thing that's exciting is having a business partner now.
Yep.
And, I've funded all of that for the last like 6 months or something, which has cost me tens of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And it hasn't impacted my business or quality of life. And obviously it's going to pay off in the long term, but also knowing that my business partner, who has 2 young stepdaughters, but his family's over in the UK, can now go spend more time with his family and everything like that. Like that for me is like the power of continuing to grow your business because you have more to give. I think that's cool.
I love that, bro. That's fucking incredible. And man, to wrap up this chat, like when you hang up the boots, when you hang up, the coach's jersey, maybe it's next year, maybe it's in 5 years, what will they write on the gravestone of your career?
He really cared, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Yep. That's beautiful, bro. That's beautiful. Man, anything, how can our, listeners out there find you? Where can we sort of have a look? And more importantly, if someone out there, especially, a bloke or a guy out there is needing, potentially to look into some of what you're doing, how can they sort of have a look at that, bro?
Just to our website, so themanthatcanproject.com. So it's probably might be live. We've just changed hosting platform. So I don't know when this is live now. So yeah, over the next couple of days anyway, that'll be as the podcast, our workshops, events, blogs, all that sort of stuff. But even just on social media, just shoot me a message. Always love having a bit of a yarn. I'm not always the fastest responder because I've got a lot of messages, but I do take times to get back to them. But yeah, I guess the most important thing is for anyone thinking about it, just listen to the podcast, because you're going to recognize pretty quickly whether you like how I talk about things and do things or not. And there's no point wasting your time jumping on a call with me or anyone in the team if you don't resonate with that. Like, I think it's really important in the coaching space to reach out to people that you connect with. And if I'm not the dude, then that's fine. There's plenty of other great coaches out there.
Yeah, amazing, bro. Man, I'm gonna wrap us up there, and man, I can't thank you enough. And like, honestly, bro, you're an inspiration to me as well. It's been incredible seeing the persistence and the grit and just the determination and also just you living through that passion, man. And like you've done a few things and sort of what you've done with this, just that obsessiveness is definitely shining through. But that care more than anything, bro, I think it's pretty incredible. So thanks for your time today, bro. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to catching up with you soon, man.
Thanks for having me on, mate. And you got me thinking about some things I haven't spoken about publicly. So that was cool. Enjoyed that.
Yes. Awesome, guys. Cool. We'll wrap